everyone, and welcome to the Australian Herpetoculture podcast. I'm your host, Jason.
And I'm your co-host, Luke.
Go on, buddy.
Yeah, good, dude, good. We got our rhythm down pat now.
We do. It's only been, this is the 17th, is it, I think?
Something like that. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun, apparently.
It's just about to say that.
Yeah. Oh, I enjoy this. I enjoy sitting down every Tuesday afternoon and talking to a herping buddy or a lizard buddy.
It's good. Have a nice cold one, have a chat. It's pretty much what it's all about, really.
Yeah, exactly. Are you having a drink tonight?
Yeah, mate. Got a nice cold one there. Nice Coopers.
Oh, Coopers? Yeah, I got Pacific a Coopers as well.
Are you on the greens? I'm on the blue tins.
Yeah, I went to Aldi. I got a mortgage now, so buying beer from there is pretty cheap.
It's true. It's good too.
Yeah.
You get some good deals there as well.
Yeah.
I used to get the old 150 lashes from there every so often.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's a good drop. Yeah. No, how's things anyway, mate? You've got a little bit of a change behind you there, I can see.
Yeah, I finally splashed out and got a bookshelf, finally. It was a bit of funny. It's a bit of a funny story. I was going to order it from IKEA. Jumped online because I wanted a black one. I was at Bunnings, I think I was, getting some other bits and pieces, and basically they were out of stock. I was sitting there in the line ready to order it. They were out of stock, so I was like, anyway, Fantastic Furniture is right next door to the Bunnings. So I was like, I'll just jump on Fantastic Furniture and see what they've got, and basically found pretty much the identical bookshelf to the one I wanted. It has the doors on it. I was like, they've got some in stock. I'll just do a click and collect. Hit click and collect, paid for it straight away, went up, grabbed all the things I need for Bunnings, went to the counter. As soon as I got the checkout, I got, your click and collect's ready. So I just drove around the corner, loaded it on, drove straight home, set her up. And I was like, this will be awesome. Set it up, put all the books in it, I'll have a bit of space in there. Filled up every single bit of space in the bookshelf, so I might have to get another one now.
I reckon you're going to end up with 3 behind you, but it does look bloody fantastic. I have to give you that.
No, it can't look good. I like the black.
It does. It looks good, and those doors are going to be really good too. That's going to protect your books a little bit further.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
yeah. Put
a bit of a seal around it, try and keep some of the crickets out.
See, I've got the opposite problem to you. I bought a bookcase and I need more books to fill it.
Well, I thought I'd have more room in there, to be honest. I didn't think I had that many books.
Yeah. And you've still got a whole bunch in crates, don't you?
That's all of them now.
That's all of them?
Yep. I got all of them out.
Oh, that's pretty good going then. It is a really nice bookcase for the listeners at home. It's pretty much floor to ceiling, absolutely chockers, and he's done it all nicely too. You can see all the certain different types of books and different ranges and stuff all lined up perfectly, and you can definitely see a lot of doubles on there. Not gonna lie,
some triples, some quadruples.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. For me, it's the top right hand shelf. I think is that your Danny Brown book selection?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's like 2 types there that look like there's at least triples or maybe even a little bit more than that. So,
yep, there is.
You might have to sell a few of those on so you can buy some different books.
That's the plan, I think. That's the plan.
Yeah,
I've got a couple I'm planning on moving on. Took some pictures today while I was down here.
Oh, cool.
So chuck a couple up, make room for some more books, get a bit of money for some more books. So it's a never-ending cycle.
Jeez. Mate, I have the problem. I end up paying too much food for electricity and crickets and rodents and all that sort of stuff. And then when I get to the book side of things, I'm like, I have to be a little bit tight here, and I'll buy 1 copy of this and I'll do a bit of a bargain hunt and see if I can find one for cheap.
See, I found a thing to fill the void for collecting heaps of animals, just to collect heaps of books.
But you know what? Like, it's not a bad idea either, because at the end of the day, as long as you look after those books, and you're clearly doing that by putting them in a lovely bookcase like this, they're going to hold their value. And a lot of them actually go up in price, especially if an unfortunate author decides to, leave us on this earth, then those books just all of a sudden triple in price.
Yeah, or if they go out of print, like those ones.
Like a lot of them on that shelf. Yeah. Yeah. So how'd you go this week?
Oh, pretty good. There may be a few more coming.
It's going to become like a bit of a weekly joke, I dare say. Just what'd you buy?
Yeah, pretty much. So no, I've got a couple of coggers coming, but I've got to sort it all out. But yeah, actually today I got some of Gunther Smeeger's books. Those soft not softbacks. Yeah, the paperback ones, the monitors and the snake one. So I had the dragons one, but I got the soft copies of the monitors and the snake one.
I'm waiting.
Have you got yours yet?
No, I'm waiting on them because I remember you ordered them a fair bit before me, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I was only about 2 weeks before you, I think.
But they're still kind of like the you pay for them or whatever, and then they get printed. They're not just kind of like sitting there waiting to get posted. It's kind of one of those sort of situations.
Yeah, and then I think once they got here, they got sent through Aramax, but they basically sat at the depot for like 2 weeks, and then pretty much took 2 weeks to come from Sydney to Central Coast. So that was a bit annoying. You could see it sitting there, like, oh, hurry up, come. But no, they're actually, I was flicking through them today. They're unreal. The monitor one's thick. I didn't think it was as thick as it is.
Yeah.
Have you got the Dragons one?
No, so I believe I ordered, if I'm not mistaken, again with the taxman money, I ordered all 3 of those books. So all the softcover ones. I just thought, I'll just do it in one hit, especially if they got to be printed and all the rest of it. So the only one of his that I've got, yeah, exactly. Pardon me. The only one of his that I've got is the hardcover monitor book.
Yeah.
I actually want to get his rainbow fish one too, because I'm a bit of a fish nerd as well. So I think that'd be kind of cool just to have the whole set.
Yeah, no, he's got, when you get the books, you look at the back and it'll show you all of his books and you want more.
Yeah. That's the trap.
Yeah, well, you got me bloody hooked onto this next series I'm trying to collect all of them on.
Oh, the...
Steve Swanson, is it? I think it is.
Yeah, I can't remember. That name sounds familiar. There's so many Steves and there's so many Swans and...
Yeah, I think it's Steve Swanson, I think it is. Reptiles of Australia or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's the field guide, isn't it?
Yeah. I got one, Steve Swanson, Field Guide to Australian Reptiles.
Yep.
I got I think it was the 3rd edition. And then I knew there was other editions. And I've ordered the first. I've got the first coming. I ordered that ages ago. That's coming, I think it's coming from America, maybe. I'm not sure. No, that was in Sydney, but it's just got stuck in post. But then I've tracked down the second, but you send me a picture of the revised 2nd edition that I can't find anywhere. And I'm like, oh, bugger.
I knew it had a Parenti on the front.
Yeah. So I'm like, I think it might. And then you found it and sent it to me. I was like, oh, you bugger, I don't have that one. That's another one.
Well, see, that's the only one I've got. So I've got to go looking for the other 2 now. So I've got
the other 3.
Other 3. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a 3rd one as well.
The newer one. Yeah. There's 2 2nd editions.
Mm-hmm.
Yours is the revised 2nd edition. There might even be more. I'm probably like, I only know of the 4, but chances are there's probably like another sneaky edition somewhere that's like a US print or something along those lines. Like there is with the Coggers. There's a couple of US editions that only came out in America.
It's funny how that works, hey? So the Coggers is something that I've got to start collecting as well. They look like nice, really big, impressive books. Yeah,
they're huge. They're massive.
Yeah.
They're probably the Bible, basically, when it comes to herp books. Pretty much. You can snap up a deal here and there, though, on eBay for some of them, especially some of the 1st editions.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I just snapped up a couple of deals on eBay. I got a mortgage now, so I'm trying to be a little bit more conscious about where my money's going, at least until I get the hang of things. But no, I ended up getting
just sell some Gillens, mate. You'll be right.
No. Let's not be stupid. That's my retirement plan. I'm kidding. My problem is I wouldn't even be able to sell them. I'd just be like, no, it'd be too attached.
Yeah, keeping them all. You'll have a room full of them soon, like me with a room full of books.
I've already got a room full of them. What are you talking about? I've got 14 of the little buggers running around. I was actually I wasn't working from home. Well, I was filming videos and feeding lizards, so you can kind of call that working of some degree. But
yeah, true.
I was at home yesterday, and my wife was on the desk, and we got the desk in with one of the herp rooms, and she's like, "Look, there's something wrong with these animals. They're all hanging off the roofs and doing all this sort of stuff." And all the Gillens were just going mental because it was nice and warm yesterday. And they're just like running across the Exoterra roofs and stuff, keeping her a bit annoyed. But I'm like, yeah, you're just gonna have to get used to this. But that was pretty funny. We were even trying to watch something. I can't even remember what we were trying to watch, but she was like on a lunch break, and we went and we were watching something on the laptop. And she turns around and I've like got 2 of them in my hands and I'm just like looking at the lizards and she's like, "You're too distracted. You can't even sit down and watch this." And I'm like, "But Gillans, like this is
Yeah.
yeah, they're right here."
That's the joys of having them in the house. I remember when I first bought this house, it was a 3-bedroom house, and the spare room, or we had 2 spare rooms, but one room is basically, that's the one I set up to have all the lizards in. And then obviously when we had my son, it was like, oh, we'll have that room, and then the other room just become like the junk room. So I was like, oh, what I'll do is I'll build half the shed. So that's when I brought everything down to the shed. But the joys of having them inside is they're inside, so you can go in the room whenever you want. Like if you got 10 minutes to kill, you just duck into the room and do something.
It's so easy.
Having them down in the shed, you come down the shed and then shut the door, and I can't hear. So if she's yelling out to me, I can't hear her because it's like the shed's all insulated and everything else. So and then if she hear this thing, she'd like throw a peg at the door or something and hear the door go bang and open the door, and she'd be like, "I've been calling you for like 15 minutes." I'm like, "I didn't hear." And because the phone reception's not that good in here as well, so like I'd walk outside and I'd get like 4 missed call messages or something.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was funny. Like even the other night, we were just watching something on TV, and there's like an ad break or something like that, and I was like, I'm just going to go walk into that room and just see what everything's up to. And it's just so easy to be in there now. Like even though the garage in the Northern Beaches place was pretty close to everything, but as you had to go outside, you had to put shoes on. It's just a bit annoying to go do that.
Yeah.
But something I am actually thinking about that'll be quite cool is like my monitors in particular seeing more of me, so then being hopefully less skittish down the line. So just being able to interact with them a little bit more, like in particular like the Kimbo and the Gillans and the Tristus.
Yeah,
like Loki's pretty used to me now, but the rest of them, it'll be good to be a kind of bit more interactive with them and hopefully start getting them a bit more tame. And you see like the video of Rob's collection back in the day when it was here in Sydney, and he's got like the Kimbo just running up his arm and stuff like that, like not a worry about it sort of thing. It's like, I want that, that's cool.
And that's the thing, they're so intelligent, so you can like do all that stuff with them. Like they know your patterns and everything. Yeah. But so you got some eggs out the other day, mate?
Yeah. So got a clutch of children's python's eggs out. I think we touched on this a bit last week, but I finally got them into the incubator.
Yeah.
So I think the final head count was 11, unless I counted it wrong, which I probably did. But
any slugs?
One's got a little bit of windowing on it, so that kind of like discoloration on the side of it. But the rest of them look pretty good. I didn't bother even candling them, to be honest. I just chucked them into the incubator, and I try not to freak out with eggs now. I just go.
They look pretty good in the picture you sent, though.
Yeah, they do look really good. They look really well shelled. So compared to her clutch that she had last year, like they were really transparent all around. I just don't think she had enough calcium in her or something. So these ones look pretty good. Actually, that reminds me, I've got some mice defrosting for her downstairs to try to feed her back up. So I have to remember to do this after we record this.
That'll smell tomorrow.
Well, worst case, at least it's because I'm still here in the Northern Beaches. So worst case, Loki will get him in the morning.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah, he'll eat anything. He's not too picky. So this is one of the books that I actually scored this week. We kind of got distracted again.
As we do.
The first edition of A Complete Guide to Reptiles of Australia by Steve Wilson and Jerry Swan. So pretty stoked I picked that up for $32, I think, which
that's not a bad buy.
You were telling me it was pretty good, so done well for myself.
$50 for that one.
Yeah.
From memory.
And I got one of Richard Shine's Australian Snakes and Natural History as well. So I think that was an older edition.
That's the one with the green tree python on the cover, isn't it?
Yeah, the knee in it. Yeah, that one was like a combo deal. It came with one of Graham Gow's book with an Owen Pelly on the front. Was it Snakes of Australia as well? Completely revised edition. So,
yeah, right. I think that Snakes of Australia one. I think that there is a few copies floating around with I think it's a Burton's legless lizard on the front cover. So it was like a misprint. Yeah.
Oh.
I think it's a Burton's. Or something else, maybe. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so it was like a misprint.
Somebody screwed up.
Yeah, and that thing's worth a mozza if you can find that. I'm pretty sure there is.
That's a bit of a pisser too, like to have in your elaborate book collection like yours and have this Snakes of Australia book with a legless lizard on it. Jesus.
Yeah, I think that's like a real collector's one, that one, if you can find that one.
Yeah.
Although maybe there's just talkings of it and no one actually seen it or something along those lines. I'm not too sure.
Have you seen it?
Oh, I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah.
Just like there was rumors of like a soft cover cogger over in the States, but apparently Hal said he's never seen one. So, so yeah, it could be just one of those unicorn books.
Yeah. Crazy books. Yeah, it's definitely an addictive thing. Like, yeah, I'm starting to watch a lot of listings on eBay and stuff now and going, maybe just one more. Oh, this one looks good.
It's cool when, like, especially with the coggers, like when you flick through, like, all the updated versions and see all the changes and stuff as well. Even the Swan books as well.
Yeah.
Like you flick through it and see all the changes and the new species and the divided species and the gotten rid of species and everything like that. Like it's just cool to see all that stuff as well.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. I like going to those like really, really old books. Yeah. Like I think we talked about it in the past. I think I've got one of Eric Worrell's like really, really old books. And, seeing all the species names and stuff like that and like black and white drawings and that sort of stuff's really cool as well. Bit of a kick.
See, that's the other good thing too, is it's like the history of it as well.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I like as well.
So are you one of those guys with your books, like, do you like them in their purest form, or do you mind if there's like any sort of like little notation in there, or?
I don't mind them with notation and stuff in them. Like that's kind of part of the history as well, especially the older books. Like, I mean, a lot of those ones don't sell for as much as, pristine copies that are pretty much basically new, which makes sense.
Of course, yeah.
But like, but yeah, like I've got a few of I think some of the coggers are older ones that are owned by older, like, people. I'm not sure who they are, but like they got family names and dates and little messages on them and stuff like that. Like it's kind of part of the little history part of it as well.
So, yeah. It all makes it pretty fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, did you catch that photo that Luke posted up on Instagram? Luke Youngins?
Which one's that one? Was that recently?
Very recently. He was up in Kakadu.
Let's have a quick squeeze. I probably have. As soon as I see it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that one. But
you have, because you've liked it.
Oh, there you go. Here we go. Oh, was that of the
his 200th post?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw it. I remember it now.
So he's got a beautiful velvet gecko. How do you pronounce that? It's Jamada.
Jamada? I'm not the best with the names.
Oh, you do a Jamada?
Yeah, Jamada, I think it is.
Yeah. Cracking looking animal, eh?
Yeah, it's a good shot too.
I like how he's kind of written up a nice little story about it as well, and how he's been having like a crap day photographing and stuff like that, and had to like jerry rig a flash or something like that on his camera and make it work for the photo. But yeah, he got there.
Yeah, he's starting to take some really cracker images, Luke.
For those of you out there, just go and follow Luke over on Instagram at LAJ_wildlife. He's just recently moved to Darwin, the lucky bugger. Yeah.
I've been enjoying his story of his road trip.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I know.
It's like Mecca.
With the idea of moving to Cairns recently, but
oh yeah,
we just want to see what it's like in the middle of summer before we make the decision of moving up there. Yeah, so
it's like if you can bear the heat, and I think it's like anything. Once you get used to it, you'll get used to it. But if you can bear the heat, you'll be right. You got to be smart too. It's like the same as when we were traveling in Darwin and Cairns and stuff like that. You don't do much during the middle of the day.
Yeah.
You kind of try to stay out of the heat a little bit and go and do your activities of a morning and an afternoon. And it seems like especially like the towns and stuff like that seem to come alive at those sorts of times, Everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah. So that was just, when obviously staying here for the time being. So, but yeah, well, I definitely want to go. We have to go for a herp trip up there though. Yeah,
definitely. I'm stinging, dude. Like I'm actually chomping at the bit. I'm looking at camping gear on eBay and stuff as well, going, what do I need? Like just need like a little little camp pillow and a few bits and pieces. Nothing too crazy. I've already got a bit of gear. But
I've pretty much got everything. So got the swag, basically got everything ready to go. I messaged I'm organising the diffuser for the flash as well. I've got to do that. I've got to send off some pictures of my camera.
Oh yeah.
So I can get the diffuser all sorted for my flash. So pretty keen for that one.
Yeah. Even if like hypothetically, even if we can't go to Queensland or something like that, I'd love to do something in New South Wales. Just go to somewhere new or whatever like that, and love to jump in the car with you and just have a bit of a trip for a weekend or a couple of extra days over a weekend or something like that, and just
leave on like
take
Friday
off
and come back on Sunday or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
just go somewhere. If two of us can drive, so just get out.
Okay. Yeah, so it'd be good to be able to take that too.
I'm stinging to see spinifex again.
Yeah, right.
Oh, absolutely stinging. Especially
the whole lockdown thing, it's just everyone's stinging just to do something, get out and go somewhere, see something different rather than basically be inside, go to work.
I agree, but I think once you finally do have that bit of a herping bug and that kind of like little bit of an adventure bug behind you, I think it just escalates it. It becomes a little bit stronger, and it's like, oh, all right, it's been a year now. Like I'm ready to go somewhere different. I'm ready to see something else. So, because my last proper trip was, I lie, I went away. That was February. I went to Alice, so it wasn't too long ago. But even still, things are starting to warm up occasionally here and that, and I'm like, even just locally, I just want to go and find something.
And we've had like a bunch of herpers on, amazing photographers.
Doesn't help.
No.
Especially with like the pre and post recording banter and stuff like that between all of them, and shit stirring and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good.
Showing me photos I don't need to see of certain lizards,
that you haven't found. That you went looking for.
Yeah, I don't want to get started on that. I'll cry again.
You've been playing with lights in your tanks too. You sent me a link today. I started watching the start of it.
You're lucky. You get all the extra links, just like the patrons.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
gives you something to chat about too. So.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I had a pretty crazy day yesterday, just fixing up some lights above some tanks and stuff. I was using heaps of those Arlec down lights on a lot of little tanks and that. And now that they're all lined up in rows kind of neatly, I just thought I'd get some. I don't even know what they are. They're like an LED batten light, essentially, like a shop light sort of thing. Yep. So I've got a few 4 foots and 3 foots and 2 foots and stuff, and lit up a whole bunch of animals. I'm sure my electricity is going to hate me shortly, but it looks good. It looks really good.
The LEDs, so it's not too bad. Like, it's obviously still a cost, but it's better than having a incandescent bulb over each enclosure.
But I've got that on a lot of them too. So for like my UV. Well, for my Gilleneye, for example, they've all got like a 40 watt heat bulb. Yep. Then they're sharing like a 40 watt LED, and they've got a 54 watt T5 high output 10.0 above them as well. So there's a bit of juice there.
Yeah. But at least you kind of like, you've got multiple enclosures using one light as well in some cases as well. So you're kind of saving there as well instead of having individual lights.
And now that I've kind of set these rooms up the way I want them to, I'm starting to run everything individually on those Arlec circuits. So, UV's on one, LEDs are on one, heat's on one. So I can kind of back off the heat and the UV a little bit. So the animals have enough during the day, but then the LEDs just kind of kick on for that daylight spectrum. So then they've got a normal daytime, So it's kind of fun playing with that though.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you what I did do. I did hook up that fan the way that you suggested on the Boyd's enclosure to the...
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
Yeah, good. So I've just got it coming on currently for a couple of hours a day. It's like... I want to say it's like first thing in the morning or early in the morning, there's a little bit of a breeze for about an hour. And then about midday as well, there's just another hit that comes through just to stir it up a little bit. Yeah. So, but it's really cool the way I've got it all. Yeah, exactly. And it's cool to see, like, all of a sudden it comes on, you hear it come on, and then you see some plants like start actually like moving around in the breeze, like the ficus and stuff like that. So a little bit of movement there.
Yeah. That's one thing that gets overlooked is airflow, I think.
100%. It's something that, again, I'd love to have it on everything, but it's like, how far do you take
more
it?
power. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But you've got fans in your room anyway, so at the same time, like if you turned one single fan on, like that would get the air circulating basically in the room, which would then again circulate it through the enclosures as well.
see, I'd love to get that on these circuits as well, to be able to turn them on and off like remotely. But I think you can actually get grid connect Arlec fans.
Yeah,
but I just didn't want to splash out for them. They're like an extra.
Probably just buy the controller.
Oh yeah.
So if you've got the fan, you can probably just buy the actual controller that sits in the fan.
Yeah.
Maybe, unless they've just built it all into the fan. But
knowing my luck.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, their range is massive now, that Arlec range.
Yeah. But I know I'm really enjoying the way the room's coming together. I think next weekend, all going to plan, I'd like to be able to move. It depends what the weather's doing, but I'd like to be able to move my frill neck, my Kimbo, and my Gillons into that other room as well, just so then like heaps of stuff's over there. Because the more stuff I get in there, the more time I can spend there. So,
have you got much left to move up there, or?
So I got the mangrove. I've got the frill neck, the Kimbo, the old Perry Gillons, my original ones. The snake rack with 5 odd snakes in that, and then the outdoor animals.
Yeah.
So even if I don't do the outdoor animals this weekend, I will. Sorry, even if I don't do the other guys this weekend, I might start on that lizard pit that we were talking about. I think that was last week we were talking about that. Okay. So I think the next morning I got the confirmation from the wife. She's like, yeah, okay, fine. Just do it. And I ended up finding a garden bed on eBay for, I think it was like $70. So it was actually heaps cheaper. Yeah, it was heaps cheaper than the Bunnings ones.
Yeah.
So I jumped on that. I think the dimensions of it are, I think it's 1.6 meters by 0.8 wide by about 0.8 tall. So a little bit bigger than what I got like the blue tongue in at the moment. So I figured, blue tongue and the Cunninghams in there, they should be all right together in there. And I'll give a few basking options and stuff for the Cunninghams to get up a bit higher, and I'll mesh in the top. I've kind of got like an idea of how I can have like a drop-in lid essentially that I can just kind of prop up in the inside of it. So it's not too complicated, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually kind of glad and stoked at the idea of being able to have some lizards outside there and not having to get rid of them.
Yeah, so, no, that'd be good. Yeah, because you don't really have to. That's pretty much almost everything. Is obviously your turtles, and then the snakes. I know I'm definitely going to keep the Antaresia, just because I've only got 3 of them, and they're not going to get any bigger. But my water pythons, I'm a little bit. How's it going on that? So yeah,
I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do there. So I might. I know one of the guys from work's pretty keen on them, so I might hand them off there. If not, then I might. I don't know. I'd like to hold on to them, but at the same time, if I'm there for another few years, I don't know where I'm going to have, some more big liasis there.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, really, because it took me like 12 months to track those buggers down.
You could just turn bloody one of the cupboards in the room into an enclosure, mate.
I have considered that, but they're not that big. Like I need to gut them out if I needed to do it properly.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to do that if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So I've already turned one cupboard into a bookcase holding area / filming equipment area. So I still need some more cupboard space for storage, actual storage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You don't
want
to lose it.
We haven't even got to hatchie season or anything yet.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So once I start getting a few geckos and stuff out, I could be royally enough. You can
use at least the space in the cupboard for some small gecko.
That's my thought.
Whatnot, so.
Yeah, I've got a bit of space, especially that kind of Exoterra room in the cupboards there. There's like these really nice deep shelves in there where I could kind of do like a few rows of like little... Heat cord. Yeah, heat cord if I needed to, or at least have like a lot of the smaller geckos, like things if you got leafies out or something like that, that'd be sweet sitting in the shelf there.
That'd be fine, yeah.
And then I might even... I was talking to my father-in-law about this actually, but if if some of my snakes actually produce, like let's say for example, I finally crack diamond pythons or God forbid green tree pythons, I might even set up like a dismantable snake rack for the middles of the rooms. So
Yep.
even if I just do it out of like,
Oh, yeah.
that same sort of pinnacle shelving that I've got, just, like
Yep.
the little, I don't even know what it is. It's like 1,500 tall by about 800 wide shelving. You can set that into kind of like two rungs. So it'd be nice and low in the middle of the room. And you could just put a heat cord down on that and then just tubs on top of that.
Yeah.
And at least then that's kind of, it's still there. It's still a bit of space, but it's not taking up any of Danny's space or our living space.
You could almost do them on top of your exoterras too.
Definitely.
If you just got tubs, and that would kind of keep them out of the way, especially if you did get some green trees out that, you wouldn't be walking past them. They'd kind of be nice and high.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a bit of space there. I've already had to put my incubator up on one of those shelves up there, so that's taken up a bit of space. But
yeah,
no, it'll all work out. It's the same as like when I hatch out any gillons and stuff like that. They tend to go into the tubs and just get passed around to wherever there's a free spot at the time. Like it's not hard to move a tub with a power cord to it. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Temporary enclosures everywhere until it goes back to normal, usually. So, although I do have a few more gillons than what I wanted at the moment. So
you say that.
I say that, but I know where they'll end up. Like, there's the ones that I've got on the breeding loan, and then there's ones that I'm kind of holding on to hold out for other animals. So
yeah,
it'll happen. I'll get some more eggs this year, hopefully, and then I'll be all over it again and go, I need 30.
It'll just keep growing, mate.
Yeah.
But I need to finish this frog enclosure. So
you need a background for it, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, when we're finally able to meet up again for anything, you just drop the enclosure around. And I think we've already spoken about this trade. Jason gave me a big 90 by 60 Exoterra not too long ago, and I haven't sorted him out for it yet, so I think I'm trading him an enclosure for some of my handiwork.
Yep. Saves me building an enclosure.
Saves me parting with too much cash right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I can spend my time doing that. That's all right. Yeah, have you kind of thought of any sort of like habitat or anything like that you want it to look like?
Not really, just something localish, really.
Yeah, some like nice
I like the darker, the darker colors, like the sandstony colors, not so much the light. Like I like the look of the what are they called? I can't remember the names of those backgrounds now.
Universal rock.
Yeah, I like the look of I just don't like the colors of the universal rock.
Yeah,
they're too light. I find they don't quite match. Some of them match, but yeah, I like more of a darker background.
When you say darker, what sort of colors come into mind? Like, are you talking dark browns and grays, or?
Yeah, like dark. If you go into like you say you go into like the bush and you're near like a waterfall and you kind of like those darker grey color.
Yeah,
they generally get the lichen and stuff on them.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like that color.
Yeah, we could definitely make something like that. That's the beauty about making your own or employing somebody to make them for you is, you can actually make them to something that you want. And, in particular, if you do have some sort of reference photos, like it's funny, everywhere I go now, I take photos of rocks.
Yeah.
And it's like, I might use that later. You can have a quick look at it and try to make a background that kind of resembles it or whatever. But yeah, I've got some ideas that we could probably run through for that. Obviously we're just spitballing and just talking while everybody's listening to us now, but are you into like the 3-sided background or just the back wall?
I just like the back wall.
Yep.
I mean, the 3-sided is good for like leaf tails and stuff like that, but things that can climb glass I'm not too fussed on.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the boids, I wasn't too fussed on doing the 3 sides with the boids because basically they generally stay on the branches anyway. They might sit on the background on the odd occasion, but pretty much generally on the branches. So
I haven't even seen my boids touch their background at all yet, which I'm actually stoked about.
Yeah, how they going? They settling in now?
Yeah, they're
sooking a little bit.
A little bit. Not majorly. Like they're not doing anything crazy, like lying on the floor or in the corner or anything like that. But they're definitely not eating as much as I'd like right now. So they're having
the branches and stuff.
Yeah, like not even like they're still out in the open. Like they're pretty confident like that. But they're one of their favorite treats that they usually get maybe once a week or something is like a couple of the giant mealworms.
Yeah.
And they usually just go bananas for it. Like they in the other enclosure, they'd like leap to the ground and outside of the enclosure and like land on my hand to come and get them.
Right.
And now they're like looking at them and they're just giving you that kind of like slow eye turn, like, oh no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But I managed to get a couple into them yesterday, so I was pretty stoked that at least they ate something.
Yeah.
So
these guys, because since I've put them in here, they're kind of doing the same thing. I've got one that's hides in the ficus. He just lives in the, like, you come on the branches of him, then he just sits in the ficus. And I got one that sits in like behind the palm that I've got in there.
Yep.
And the others just perch, but they're starting to eat. They'll eat off tongs, so that's pretty good.
It's good when you can do that.
So, yeah, at least I know they're eating, because like to start with they wouldn't.
Yep.
I'd throw crickets in. Obviously the crickets would disappear, but you wouldn't know who was eating what.
Yeah.
Especially but it's handy just being able to tongue feed them, because you can see basically how much they eat and what they're eating.
Yeah. That's one thing that I didn't do with this enclosure, is make it insect proof.
Yeah.
So
really?
Yeah, so the mesh that I use is it's like a 5mm by 5mm mesh, so it's quite small. But I do try to tongue feed my boids pretty much all the time anyway, just so I can see how much food they're actually getting. But then the other day I made the fatal error of just going, okay, well, I'll just chuck in a handful of crickets and then hopefully you can go for it. And the next morning I woke up and there's like crickets all around the place. I was like, oh. Quickly collecting them before my wife saw me.
Yeah. So. Just drop a bit of like carrot in the corner of the room or something.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, at least I learnt my lesson quick with that one before we're living there permanently. Oh,
that's good. They're settling in though.
Day by day. Do you know what though? Like it looks freaking awesome when you go in there a morning and it's like this warm white glow in the center of the tank and there's like not much else happening, and then a couple of hours later it's like brightening up and you get that midday like whack of UV and stuff through there, and then at like night at like 7:30 or so it's like just got like this little tint of warm white in there as well. So it's like it's amazing. Like it's so much thought. I put so much thought into it and it's turning out like I planned. So it's so far so good.
And she's looking chunky too, your female.
I don't know if she just puffs up, because I was like checking her out the other day and I'm like, she's either she might have she's either dug down and gotten rid of something, which is entirely possible because there is a bit of dirt around the place, or she's just a little bit chunky. I don't know. But I couldn't see any eggs in her, and I was kind of like trying to touch her belly a little bit and see if I could feel anything. But yeah,
and she's thick.
We'll see.
Oh,
yeah,
be good.
Early days, mate. You know, if it happens this year, it happens this year. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm not too stressed. I just like seeing these animals in these sorts of environments, and you know, if you get a couple of babies, that's a bonus.
Yeah. So I'm just keen to get a few more tanks in this room and get a few more couple of the animals and just enjoy it. Like you're at that stage now where you've got everything kind of set up in a couple of the rooms and you've still got a bit to go, but you know, you can kind of sit back and enjoy it. I've still got like stuff everywhere and just trying to work out like a layout and heights of enclosures and whatnot. So
I don't know if we're able to talk about this at all, but did you order another box?
I did order another box.
You're not going to talk about what it's for, though, are you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's a surprise. Well, hopefully it comes off. But no, I've ordered another box that I'll get set up, get it all sorted, make it all look nice, and
I'm not even going to say the enclosure dimensions. Just we'll leave our listeners kind of hanging a little bit so they come back for more.
Yeah. So that way it's basically ready to go. So.
That'll be good. I'm excited about this. I'm really excited about this. I hope it comes through for you.
Yeah, same.
It'll be golden if it does.
I'm keen. Like, getting new books is good, but when you get new animals, it's just, there's nothing better than you get that bag or, you know, container and you open it and you see it there and it's just like, it's almost like getting eggs and then seeing the eggs hatch. So
I was really like that with my, my rough scales and my water pythons. Yeah. When I got them, that was like two animals that I was like incredibly amazed with when I actually got them out of the bag.
Yeah.
The geckos I was too, like the leaf tails I was as well, but at the same time it's like I chased the rough scales and the waters for so long. So when I did get them, it was like all that more worth it. Whereas the geckos was kind of like, it was lucky timing and a bit impromptu sort of thing. So two different kind of wants.
You don't see a lot of water pythons for sale though.
You don't, because they're jerks.
No.
I love mine, but all they want to do is eat me and bite me and shit all over me. So
that's they'd love me then.
Well, maybe that's where they can go and live. They can go and live with you.
Oh, you just see me, like, you will click on, then I'll just have like bandages around my face. There'll be like teeth marks everywhere. So
whole house would smell like musk.
Yeah, definitely. So
nothing like their wild counterparts at Fog Dam. I'm telling you from experience, those things were chilled as, but they did smell a lot.
So I love scrubbies too, but it just seems to be a thing with a lot of the captive scrubbies as well.
Yeah, they get a bit of a bad rap. You don't see a lot of scrubbies getting around these days.
Not at all. Not at all. Used to a couple of years ago, you'd see the odd few hatchies here and there, but I can't. I think I'm in a scrubby page on Facebook, but it's obviously overseas as well.
Yeah.
But you don't really see. Yeah, you never see hatchies. That's probably one of those things though, that there's lists and stuff, and basically whatever eggs people get out, they're probably all spoken for anyway.
I wonder if it would get to the point where I think, how like a lot of people were working with parentis for a good period of time, and then all of a sudden it was like they couldn't sell parentis anymore, and it was almost like their market of people that could buy parentis was almost full. Because like something like that, like might be a bit different with a scrubby, for example, because obviously you could have them for a short period of time when they're small, but whereas like a parenti still needs a fair bit of space off the bat.
And that's the thing, once they're fully grown, like you need quite a large space for both. So
I mean, I was considering scrubbies a little while ago, maybe about a couple of years ago, and I went down to that next to the aquarium in Darling Harbour there in Sydney, there's like that Aussie Wildlife World or whatever it is. Went down there and I saw one of their adult scrubbies curled up in a ball, and I was just like, holy shit, that's a big snake.
Huge, eh?
Yeah, that is a big snake.
Yeah, because I used to do a bit of work down there, like service work, and I remember we'd had to do some service in a bunch of the enclosures, and they went through and took all the animals out, and they had the two roughies, they had the two scrubbies out, just let them like roam on the floor. Obviously there was no one there. This was super early in the morning. Just let them like roam up the hallway. And I remember just looking at it going, geez, this thing, I think it was like 5 meters long. I think one of them was like, it was huge.
That was a solid snake. That scrubby was as thick as my thigh. Like I'm not really a big guy, but that was as thick as my thigh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they pulled apart. So like conduit that had been glued together, it just popped it open like it was nothing.
What kind of glue is that goes together? Is that similar to like the plumber's stuff?
It's pretty much the exact same. I think the plumbers use like a 2-part one, like there's a pink one and a blue one, whereas we just use the blue one, which I think it's got both in it or something. But yeah, it's pretty much the exact same as the plumber's one.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, I was just like, whoa. Yeah. So strong, beautiful animals, that's for sure.
A lot of muscle there, that's for sure.
Yep.
What do you reckon, mate? We've just been yabbering on for like the last 43 minutes out of here. Do you reckon we should... we actually had like a slight topic that we wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah. Rather than just us waffling on.
we do that enough.
Yeah.
Do you want to lead us into it? This is kind of probably a bit more your forte. You know a bit more about it than I do, but I just own a couple.
Yeah. We're just going to have a chat about leaf tails, basically. Everything leaf tail. Keeping, breeding, everything. So
enclosures, husbandry, all sorts of bits and pieces. Bit of natural history, or habitats and stuff like that. So it's one of those topics I get asked about it heaps. I don't know about you, but like
I used to, when I post pictures all the time. I get flooded with questions about keeping them. So it's one of those things similar to boids and angleheads and the cooler animals. People, I think, get them and maybe have one or two basically die because they've kept them slightly wrong and they think they're really hard.
Yeah.
But when in actual fact they're once you've kind of get the environment right in the enclosure, they thrive. Like they're actually really easy to keep, I found. So, and probably one of them the more enjoyable geckos I found. Maybe apart from the Oradura because they were super active, and a couple of the other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually really liked keeping the leaf tails. So
I've really enjoyed them so far as well. And to be honest, I don't think they're as hard as what a lot of people make them out to be.
no, I think maybe at the start when maybe they first come in and people were trying to keep them the same way with basking spots and this and that. But now there's that much information out there.
Yeah.
It's basically, The other thing I liked about them was I didn't have to have heat lights on, nothing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
They were actually one of the first geckos I ever kept was some of the Sydney broadtails.
Yeah. So I never kept broadtails because basically where I live, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I've got a bunch that live under my house. So I was like, I'd never really found the urge to keep the broadtails.
Yep.
But yeah, there's not really many flourishes you can actually. I think you can in New South Wales. I think you can only keep the flourish platurus on license. That's all there is. But there's some absolutely spectacular flourishes. I think there's 10 flourishes. Yeah, there's 10 flourishes. But a lot of them are. I think Scott touched on this when we had Scott on. A lot of them are in really remote locations and like really small, basically range. So
yeah,
they're pretty well, and there's some of them that are hardly seen. So
some of them, I mean, I didn't even know about really until you start looking in field guides and stuff like that. And you go, what the hell is that gecko? I've never seen that because they're not in the trade. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're in the hobby for the hobby, then you don't really see these sorts of animals come up.
Yeah, that's right. You might see the odd picture on say like Matt Somerville's page and a couple of those guys. Like you'll see pictures of them in the wild, but if you didn't read the caption, you wouldn't realize that they were different. Like there's a bunch that kind of look similar to a lot of people, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just spectacular. Some of those flourishes.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of species there, that's for sure. And there's I'm just looking at this book that I've got in front of me now. This is one of Steve Wilson's one. What's the species? It's Araya occulta. I don't even know how to spell it, but it's neither. That
one got described back in, when was that one described? I think it was in the 90s, maybe. No, I think it was in the 90s. I think. But that's I'd love to see one of those ones. I think it's Araya occultus. I think it's how you pronounce it. But they're stunning.
So many different species as well. Like even just in the flouris. And all the thin-tailed ones too that don't actually look like a leaf tail as such.
No.
You know, they almost look a bit more like a gyra or something, just a bit more spiky and mottled.
Cordoannulatus and I think it's Gulbrew, I think you pronounce it.
Scott's probably like sweating at this right now going, you bloody idiots, they're absolutely butchering this Latin. We can say Isis though. I can say Isis.
Yeah, Carby.
Nephthys.
Pinnacolensis.
So many different species. But yeah, as far as habitat goes, I mean, a lot of these guys come from somewhat similar habitat.
Yeah.
It's all
pretty much
like
either rainforesty type rock outcrops or tree. But I think in Queensland they can keep the Cordoannulatus. I'm pretty sure. I think there's a few of them floating around in Queensland, but I have a feeling that people have asked for them to be put on license here, but I don't think it's gone anywhere.
That's pretty standard though.
Yeah. But yes, it's pretty much in New South Wales and pretty much anywhere really. I think all you can really keep is the Flouris platurus and maybe the odd Cordoannulatus if you can find someone working with them. There is a few people, but not many.
At least you can keep a few more of the Salter areas.
Yeah, you can pretty much keep the majority of them, I think.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
The only one you can't is the Exemius. I think it's how you pronounce it.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, I think that's the only one you probably can't find.
KDA?
There's probably people with them.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'd say the rest would be floating around. But yeah, there's because you got to think. So KDA and Maritzi were pretty much only split in 2008 from Swaney.
Yep.
So they were all classed as Swaney. So if you think back when people, before licensing would collect them, they were all classed as Swaney. So there would have been people that would have collected, from like the Coffs region, and that would have been Maritzi, and then your KDA, which were up a little bit further north again, and then further north again was your Swaney. So those populations, if they had have kept them and bred them, because if you look at your Maritzi and your Swaney, you can tell they're different. Patterns are different, sizes are different, like they look different. So there would have, people would have kept them separate. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure that the majority of them were in. But the Maritzi popped up probably 4 or 5 years ago, I think. I remember seeing them advertised, Hatchies advertised. I was like, oh, because I already had Swaney. Maybe I think I had the White Berber and some Cornutus, and I was like, oh, these are awesome. And I think I remember jumping on some Hatchies, and they were like, I wasn't sure how big they'd get and everything, but yeah, they're stunning.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I have a soft spot for leaf tails, yeah.
You wait to the end of this episode, you're going to be like, hey, Luke, if you get any out this year.
I love the colour and the patterning on the White Berber, the grey and that red dorsal kind of stripe they've got going down the back with the white. Yeah. I had a few males that when they were because they change colour a lot, you've probably noticed with your ones, that depending on what type of background they're on and what type of temperature as well, they'll change a little bit. I found when they were cooler, they'd be almost lighter in colour.
Yep.
Which was weird. You'd think, but yeah. So I had one of my male White Berber, in particular, he would have his whites were super bright. Yeah, his tail was real notch. He had real big notches taken out the side of his tail as well. He was a stunning one.
Yeah, they do that. Their tails seem to be really ornate like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the Swaneys are kind of similar as well with their tails, I found. But you can't beat the tail of Salbrosus though. That big, huge tail.
It's like this tiny little gecko with a dinner plate hanging behind it. They're massive.
They're actually quite large.
Yeah,
the bodies on them.
I'm saying in comparison, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When you look at them compared to, say, something like Cornutus, the Cornutus tail is kind of a bit more in proportion, whereas the Salabrosus tail is massive compared to the actual gecko itself.
Yeah.
Even though that gecko is big. I'm actually, my Cornutus is starting to get up there. They're starting to grow like weeds.
Yeah, they're huge. I think they're the largest ones. So,
did you see them last time you were around? Or we were just kind of in a rush, I think, but I'll have to get them out for you next time you're around once all this garbage is over. But they're starting to get they'd be about that. Yeah, probably a solid 6 to 7 inches or so.
Yeah.
Pretty decent size. Yeah,
well, they're the largest that you can keep. Actually, I'm not sure how big the Exemius get to. Oh, they're about, I think it says 11.8 max. So about 11.
Exemius is a really weird looking one though, because they've got such thin, long legs, as well as their body. Their body still.
They've got really bulbous eyes.
Yeah.
I'd love to see one of them in the wild.
Yeah, that'd be crazy to see one.
But apparently, it's like a helicopter flight and everything else just to get to kind of where they are. So
surely we can find someone with a chopper.
You need a bank account.
Start a GoFundMe, I reckon.
Yep. So,
but yeah, no. So as far as habitat and stuff goes, as Jason's already mentioned, mainly sort of rocky outcrops in sort of damp, humid forest environments where it's a little bit cooler, a bit more temperate, as well as a lot of tree tree life as well. So things like, I think the northern leaf-tailed gecko, the cornutus and stuff's really associated with a lot of trees.
Yeah. And I think even with the Wyberba, there's two separate populations. One lives on the rock, granite, and the other one lives on trees. Like they're only found on the trees in the other population.
Yeah.
So
Interesting geckos to keep, that's for sure. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll get stuck into a bit of well, like before we kind of get into that, how did you go finding leaf tails in the hobby? Like they're a bit of a tricky one to track down, aren't they?
Yeah, so I took ages to find people that bred them. Basically, I remember when I first saw, it would have been 10, 12 years ago, maybe even more. Yeah, about 12 years ago. I think they were a lot more common back then.
Yep.
Like you'd see posts for like, yeah, cornutus for sale, hatchies and everything else. And then they kind of just fell off. And then I remember seeing a pair of cornutus advertised and I was like, oh, basically jumped on them straight away. I think was it cornutus? I think it was. I'd have to go back and check. Jumped on them straight away and I was just hooked. And then basically from that point on, it was like, actually, no, maybe it was Swaney. No, it was Swaney. Yeah, it was Swaney. A pair of Swaney. And bought them off a guy in Queensland. And yeah, I was hooked. But trying to find them and trying to find, because I think obviously like there would be a bunch, I reckon. I remember I got I think it was a Swaney I got from Queensland years ago. Opened the container and it was like regen tail covered in mutts. And I was like, basically, I'm like, yeah, this is 100% message the person. They're like, oh, no, I kept him outside in an aviary. And I was like, well, I was like, what do you do? Like, you know, like, what am I supposed to do?
Can't really argue that. Like, it's entirely possible, right?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if you did or didn't. And
yeah.
And then, yeah. But, yeah, I ended up keeping that female. I think it was a female, yeah. But basically, yeah, the hardest thing was just trying to find and then trust people as well. Like, because I found a lot of the sellers were in Queensland. So I basically was like, oh, I'll try and stay away from, unless I know the people that, you know, and you can see pictures of babies and eggs and everything else. So kind of stayed away. And just basically I'd see people that had them previously and sold babies and had babies and everything else, and I'd bought them from then. But it took years to get the collection and even get eggs out. I remember I bought a pair of cornutus, had them for years, and never got eggs out of the female. And I ended up I ended up keeping the female and keeping them. I think I actually traded the male with someone for another male to see if that worked. Still didn't work, and I'm having to get another female, track down another female. And then that was when I started breeding. But I don't know how old she was. Like, she was fully grown when I got her. I don't know how old she was, you know, if she just wasn't interested in breeding. I got told they were a proven breeding pair.
Yep.
I got one egg out of her and it was a slug. So
yeah, that's a tough trot.
Yeah. So it took years. But yeah, but it's kind of good to see that a lot more people have them now. And are keeping them and having success with them as well. I mean, I'm not saying the only person has success with them, but I think a lot of people are just kind of underground with them as well. Like, you never really, similar to turtles and frogs and that, like, not many people. Back in the forum days, you'd see them quite a bit posted on the forums, but I don't know whether maybe people they were older animals or what the go was, or people just got out of the hobby and sold them on, and, you know, people just didn't breed them or whatever, but they just kind of not vanished, but, you know, they were just harder to find.
Yeah. I find that, you know, whenever they did come up, they were gone real quick too. So you didn't have a lot of time to jump on something if you did see it.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't even remember what made me. I think I saw an old post of yours for like a Salabrosis or something like that you'd sold, and I was like, oh, I've got to contact Jason and see if he's got any of these leaf tails kicking around. And I kind of picked up your last little few, which was my downward spiral into leaf tails after that. But yeah, I got very lucky and I was able to pick up. What did I get off you? I got an adult Maritzi. It was an adult. It was adult white berber. Yeah, it was an adult male white berber.
It's a male, yeah.
And then I got a a Maritzi and a Cornutus as well, which the Maritzi, I believe, is a male and the Cornutus was a female.
Yeah.
And a bunch of enclosures and a Miss King system.
Yeah.
So I kind of did like one big purchase off Jason.
Yeah. I sold a bunch to one person as well. So they were kind of took a whole bunch of stuff. So
that's good. It's better than selling little individuals going off in different directions and stuff like that, because at least then you've got a little bit of hope that you've got them all in the one spot, and hopefully there's a few people that have a bit more success with them.
Yeah.
I was able to pick up a good stack of them off another guy as well. I got 4 Wyberber off him.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember how many, yeah.
Yeah, so they're old girls, though. They seem to be old girls. So that's why I've been holding back the last couple of Wyberber that I got out last season.
Yeah.
If they drop off the perch, then hopefully I've got something there to kind of raise up through the ranks and keep it going. So,
but yeah, they're good to keep because they're kind of almost like a display gecko as well to a certain degree, if you can find them. I remember there's numerous times when I'd like open the enclosure, like where they'll be moving, because we'll probably get into this later, but I'd basically kept them all in bioactive plants and everything, and I'd be moving like bird's nest ferns and this and that, and then it wouldn't be like, I'd be pulled, like, because I had a lot of cork bark in there, I'd pull a piece of cork bark back and I'd be looking and going, where is this thing? And I'd just see the tail just sitting right in my finger. I'm like, I don't know how I missed that. Like,
yeah.
So
they do a bloody good job of blending in.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They really rely on that camouflage. That seems to be their number one thing with their body patterns and like the mottledness to them and the tubercles and all the rest of it. And obviously the leaf tail, hence the name. You know, they're really relying on that to be able to stay safe while they're out there hunting for bugs and all the rest of it.
Yeah. But, they're just, Then the size, I think that's the other thing too, is the size of them, like especially your Cornutus and your Salabrosus. Like, they're such a large-bodied gecko.
They're seriously impressive. I think I mean, the Cornutus, now that they're growing up for me, they're the biggest geckos I've ever owned. Not by weight, but by size, like sheer size. They're monsters.
Yeah. Absolutely huge. And then, so I think the Salabrosus are probably almost the same size as the Cornutus, just due to their tail. But I think because obviously they measure them snout to vent. Yeah. So I think they're a little bit smaller maybe than the Cornutus. But yeah, with that tail, they're just, it's huge. Actually, no, it says on they're pretty well the same size, snout to vent.
Yep. Yeah, they're not too much different. So
yeah,
I think the Cornutus always just gets called the biggest, but the Salabrosus's tail is a lot wider.
Yeah, and longer. Like their tails could be like 5, 6, 7 centimeters long.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So let's talk a little bit about like some basic husbandry then. And you obviously got to start with how you're going to house them. So what was your sort of like preferred method?
The preferred method was just exoterras, purely because one, I like the look of them.
Yeah.
2, I found that I could keep the bioactive terrariums and keep in enough humidity, but still also have that airflow so it wouldn't get too moist. So I'd have obviously the misting systems, but then that airflow with a whole big large vent. It's not like a dart frog or a frog where you might want to keep a little bit more humidity and moisture in. You wanted that airflow to dry the soil out so it didn't get too damp in there. So I'd set them up in pretty much the majority of them I set up in a 60 high, 45. I'd have a pair in there.
Yep.
And I had, except for like the Wyberber and the smaller ones, the Maritzi, I'd have maybe a trio in there. But basically I just went bioactive soil, plants, and cork bark slabs basically lent up against. I bought some cork bark backing and just stuck that on there as well. And that's pretty much how I had them all set up. But the larger Cornutus and Salabrosus, I had in the 60, 45, so that little bit extra width. I mean, I would have loved to have kept them in a little bit taller enclosure, maybe one of the 90s, but I just never got around to doing that. So pretty much bioactive is how I kept the majority of them. But I also did keep some Wyberber outside on the Central Coast in a, I think I spoke about it once before, in a plastic tub, just with a vented roof. Pretty much I didn't have plants in there. I just had quiet substrate and just slabs of basically cork bark. And I'd come out at night time or go to work first thing in the morning and it'd be like single digit temperature, and they'd be out hunting food.
Yep.
Sitting off the corkbark slabs with their head out, looking for, just trying to look for crickets and stuff. And I actually got eggs. I kept Swaney out that way too. That's right. Yeah, Wyberber and Swaney, and I got eggs out of both in that enclosure. So
That's unreal.
yeah. So but it was amazing to see them active at like almost single digit temperatures.
Yeah.
With no heating or anything. And it was between a shed and a fence. So basically they'd only get like mottled sunlight through a tree. So there's a big tree over there as well. So they get a little bit of mottled sunlight through the day. And it just basically, so there was no direct sunlight on the tubs.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
That's something that I've definitely been toying the idea with, but I'll kind of get into that as I go through how I've kept them now.
Yeah.
So the first gecko, or the first leaf-tailed gecko that I actually kept was the Platys. So I had a bit of experience with those, not only when I was a kid, which I won't count that, but I actually kept them when I kind of got into the hobby for real, and I kept them in a wooden enclosure. Just something that I actually made. I think it was out of an old bookshelf sort of thing, and I did like a swing door on the front of it with a bit of perspex or whatever. Kept them super simple, no heating whatsoever, and there was just basically a deep sand and coir pit mix substrate.
Yep.
And I just misted them. I think once or twice a week I just lightly misted the enclosure just so there was a little bit of relative humidity in there. To be honest, there probably wasn't too much ventilation in that tank, which was, not a great idea looking back at it.
Misting it once or twice a week would have helped keep that moisture down too, whereas my miskings we could go every day. But that was purely more so for the plants. So
yeah. But no, that I found them super, super simple to keep. I did have just kind of like one of those cheap backgrounds you get off eBay or whatever like that, just silicon to the back wall of that enclosure. So they'd just be running up and down that all the time. Just bark slabs kind of laid up against the back wall as well. So they had somewhere they could kind of retreat around. Obviously, these geckos don't have those sticky toe pads like a lot of your other velvets and stuff like that. So you got to give them the space to actually climb around on these surfaces.
And the rough surfaces.
Yeah. So they don't
climb the silicon on the side of your enclosure, but that's about it.
Yeah. And that's only because they can get their toe in it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got some pretty sharp claws too.
Yeah, they do. Especially some of the bigger ones. They leave you with a couple of little scratches on your hand afterwards. And then from there, I obviously followed Jason's suit with the Exoterras. But something that I was actually talking to Jason just before we hopped on here, I was toying with the idea of doing some of those. What are they? They're like a aluminium mesh,
fly screen mesh almost.
They're like a stick insect terrarium sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm toying with the idea of maybe doing my Wyberber or something outside.
Yeah.
I
know a lot of people used to keep their leaf tails in those enclosures years ago. There was lots of posts floating around on the old Aussie Pythons forum and stuff like that. I think it was more so to do with trying to keep temperature down and this and that in hotter climates. But a lot of people successfully kept them in there. It'd be perfect, especially if you're going to keep them outside on your deck.
Well, they're the kind of animal that I'd feel quite well keeping outside too, not only because there's not going to be prying eyes looking at those kind of enclosures really, but it's also I've got two courtyards. One gets a lot of sun, one gets near to no sun sort of thing. So on that side where it does get a bit of that mottled sunlight in the morning, then that might be the kind of side that I could hang a couple of those enclosures off the wall or something like that and keep them there.
Yeah, that'd be perfect, especially for those mesh enclosures.
Yeah.
You probably find you could keep almost the majority of them outside. It just might be the winter with maybe your cornutus. But then again, you probably wouldn't want them outside. But
you just move them inside. I'd want my cornutus inside. I think just keep it a little bit warmer, a little bit more humid, I suppose, year round sort of thing. I feel like the Wyberber might be able to dry out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I'd still kind of alter things a little bit. I'd probably put like a large tub in the bottom of the enclosure, just that I could put like a deep substrate in, so that not only could they nest in there quite happily, but you could spray that down quite regularly just to kind of bump up some relative humidity down there, and you could put some like bark slabs or something on top of it. So if they wanted to kind of hold a bit of humidity, they could get under the bark slabs in the bottom of the mesh terrarium or whatever and go from there. I'm really starting to toy around with the idea now. Like I'm going, yeah, I've got like the perfect spot for it. At least the white Berber, I reckon that would be really good. You could probably do the Moritz out there pretty easily as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you could, because it's almost the same temperature as coughs, really, if you think about it.
Well, they get further south than that as well.
Yeah. But I think they come down to like the Barrington Tops, which snows up there. So, So yeah, you could definitely do that there with them as well. That'd be cool.
I think I just shield them a bit from some weather and stuff like that. Like I might kind of like
it might be
shield
worth
them.
putting maybe some perspex or something on the side of one just to stop maybe a bit of wind on one side or something.
Yeah, or even like core flute, something like that.
Flute, yeah, something like that.
That might work well. And I'd probably put some sort of like maybe like a clear roof sheet type thing on the top of it, just so they're not getting like hammered with rain or anything like that. And then I'd probably do something like a rollover drop sheet or something, just in case it was getting quite heavy rain or something like that there.
Yeah.
But again, those
another misting and
those enclosures though, they'd be super light just to be able to pick up and move inside though on those kind of nights. You just be roll out a towel on the carpet, chuck the enclosures on top of it, you're sweet.
Yeah. And you could even build like the cube lock you can get from Bunnings, the aluminium cube lock. You could just build like a little rack out of that just to sit them on.
Yeah, true.
If you didn't want to mount it to the wall.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. A couple of dolly wheels on the bottom so you can move it around.
Because I looked at making years ago enclosures for them out of cube lock.
Yep.
But it just worked out to be too expensive by the time you got like all the cube lock and then a side and everything else and perspex warps a little bit.
These the enclosures that I'm talking about, you can find them on eBay. I think they're about $100. They're black and they're 45 by 45 centimeters by 80 tall, I want to say. Yep. But I have a feeling that I might, because I'm luckily in the industry, I might be able to get the Exoterra ones a little bit cheaper. So I can get things for just about cost. So, and that you can get those, I think they're 60 wide, 45 deep and 90 tall. So it's a little bit bigger as well. So you might be able to do a bit more like a colony situation in something that big.
Yeah.
So that might be the go for me.
Yeah. I mean, you could keep them in all types of enclosures, wood, glass, fly screen. It doesn't matter as long as you can keep the temperature down. That's the main thing that these guys succumb to is temperature, I found. So
I was definitely freaking out last year with summer and stuff coming through, and we had those few hot days and stuff like that with these geckos, and my garage was copping some pretty brutal heat, and obviously having a range of other animals in there as well that heat up the garage, and that's half the reason why I've gone so elaborately down this grid connect sort of wormhole, is to be able to turn all this sort of stuff off with the switch without being at home, so, and that's mainly for these kind of more temperature sensitive animals like the boids and the leaf tails and the likes, and the green tree pythons and stuff like that. So it's good to be able to control your temperature. I even at one point when I had the leaf tails originally, the 3 that you gave me, when I had them up here in the bedroom, I set up fans on them as well.
Yeah, okay.
And that was really good to keep the temperature down. And I actually had them on a cooling thermostat. So when the room got above 27 degrees, the fan switched on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So before I got this shed sorted and I bought like a little portable air conditioner for the hot days. So before I did that, I used to go and fill up Ziploc bags with water and put them in the freezer. So any hot day, basically every day I'd check the temperature, and then before I'd go to work, I'd come down and just bring all those bags down and just basically pretty much where the geckos always sat, I just stick like an ice block kind of relatively close, like a big bag filled with water. So that way if it did get hot, they still had that option to cool themselves down. And by the time I got home from work, it was so basically my shed would get the hottest in the afternoon because there's some big gum trees behind it, so that would shade the sun in the morning. There's a passion fruit vine over the side of it, so that would shade the sun basically till about midday, 1 o'clock-ish, and then once it kind of cracks past the trees and the vine is basically sun on one wall pretty much all afternoon. So that was when they'd heat up. So by the time I got home from work, ice pack would be melted, but it'd still be cool. So it was basically perfect timing. And then I went out and bought one of those little portable air conditioners from Bunnings, and basically just set that up. So it was on a little like thermostat. So if it basically got too hot, it'd just kick on. If it got over, I think I set it at 29. Once it got to 29, the air conditioner would kick on. And it's just one of those ones that just blow it till it like just keep cooling basically all day.
Yeah,
pretty much. So I mean, it wasn't the best air conditioner, but it did its job. It kept everything cool enough. So
yeah. No, they're definitely handy. I had a little portable aircon here. I actually got it off Gumtree, off some fella for like $60. Noisy as all buggery.
Yeah,
and that's the whole reason he was getting rid of it. He's like, oh, him and his partner couldn't sleep with this thing in the bedroom.
And they basically have two speeds, flat out and flat out.
yeah, there's no kind of in between.
No.
But no, I was it was one of those ones that was like an evaporative one, so you needed like it had like a tray that would fill up with water eventually. But I ended up just plumbing a hose into it. I think I drilled a hole in the tray or something like that and just plumbed a thin hose outdoors and like just straight onto the lawn, so that it never had the excuse to run out or stop.
I did the same thing. Yeah.
And then I just
drilled a hole in the roof for the vent, like where it sucked the air in. So
I did the same. So then it also had like a duct out as well, where it blew the air out. So I had that going out the window, and if you walked past that window on a hot day, you'd cop like hot air to the face or something like that. It was horrible. But like at times that definitely saved my animals. So I was lucky enough to be able to have that as an option. I'm lucky enough now that my animals are indoors and I've got air conditioning indoors. Yeah. And, all this sort of control and stuff on the heating elements of all my animals. So as far as lighting goes, did you actually use anything to light up your geckos?
So pretty much the only thing I used for these guys was LED plant grow lights. So I had jungle dawns over all of my my terrariums for these guys.
Yep.
That was pretty much all I used. I mean, you could use UV on them as well, I guess. But the only reason I didn't was because the majority of the ones I had, so I obviously had all the bark all stacked up, they would hide under the bark. So they wouldn't utilize the actual UV.
Yep.
So if I had a bark stacked up against the background, there'd be one like tucked up right up high, and there might be one on the other bark slab pretty much upside down.
Yep.
And then they basically never see the UV. So I never really bothered with UV. I mean, you could, like, there'd be no harm in trying it. They might actually come out and maybe even look for it. I'm not too sure. But pretty much just use jungle dawns just for the plants. And obviously it looks good too. It gives a bit of light. So
yeah.
What about you?
I definitely think like any lighting spectrum or any natural looking lighting spectrum for any animal is going to be beneficial, at least if it's a day and night cycle sort of thing. Yeah. So to really regulate them quite nicely. So I use 6500 Kelvin LED buttons. I don't even know what you call them. As I said earlier, like they're like a shop light. Like you literally use them in warehouses and stuff like that. So I do use those for these guys. I also have like little downlights and stuff that I use on top of some of the smaller exoterras. But I have started using UVB on my geckos as well. This is just across the board. I'm trying to use UV on everything now just to see if I can really just give animals the option. I figure every animal's got the option to crawl out of a dark crevice during the day and get a little glimpse of it if they need it or if they want it. I've seen my geckos hanging off the Exoterra roof underneath the UV. Whether that means they want to use it or they just happen to be hanging there, like I can't tell you. But I believe you can keep them in either way. I've got some geckos without it. I've got some geckos that have only just given it, and I've got some geckos that have had it for probably 6 to 8 months now. So these are all leaf tails I'm talking. And, they all seem fine. I figure as long as you're feeding them, decent calcium supplements and stuff along the line, then that's going to keep them nice and healthy, whether you use it or not.
Yeah. I mean, I never did, just purely because, it was just personal preference, really. Yeah. But as long as you keep the calcium with D3 up, they should be fine. So. And
again, like I will reiterate the fact that I'm not using UV all day with these guys either.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to make my T5 globes potentially last 2 to 3 years. So, I'm only using them for a few hours a day on some of these rainforest species. So it's a little bit different to maybe somebody is keeping your gametes or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's an option for them. So, I mean, if you can give them all the options, they can pick the areas they want. So,
Yeah. And if you make it like a little rhythm as well, so like you were saying about your boids, how you have the lights come on in the morning and then the UV kind of comes on for a few hours during the middle of the day and then it shuts off and then they've still got the LED or whatever on after that. At least that kind of creates a bit of a cycle so the animal knows when there's going to be access to these sorts of things as well. So it can prepare itself to come and use it whether it wants to or not.
That's right.
So you kind of touched a little bit on misting as well, didn't you? So obviously we both use Mist King systems with these guys.
Yeah. I just found it easier. It was just come down to, especially having the plants. I mean, like I said before, you don't have to have a misting system to keep the leaf tails.
No.
You can just mist them with a spray bottle if you want. You don't even have to mist them, really. You could just wet the soil with, like, I never misted the geckos directly.
No.
I'd have the misting system, but that would mist the soil. So you could basically just spray the soil, which should give them enough humidity. But I did find when the misting system would go off, a lot of the geckos would actually come down and drink the water droplets off the leaves of the plants, especially the bird's nest ferns. So I supplied water bowls to all my lizards. I never once saw the leaf tails drink out of a water bowl.
I never see it with just about anything.
No, neither. So as soon as that mist king goes off, they'll drink. Even the boys, as soon as the mist king goes off, they'll drink the water off the leaves straight away. I've never saw them. I mean, it's not to say they haven't they drank out of it. They might have drank out of it when I wasn't watching or something. But yeah, I supplied them with them, but I'd always see them drink during the day off the Mist King system.
Yeah.
But before I got the Mist Kings, though, I just used one of those, those hand pump misters.
Yeah, I've still got one.
The larger ones. I think they're like I've got one here still as well because I spray the bottom of the soil. In this enclosure a little bit more than the Mist King goes off because I want to because I've got a large soil area. The Mist King, I'd have to run it for a few minutes to basically water all the plants. But yeah, I used to walk around with one of those pump bottles, spray all the enclosures down, give it a nice big spray over, spray all the soil, go to the next one, do the next one. So
I love those mist bottles. They're probably, I don't know, about $20-$25 from Bunnings, but they're like a big, people would use it for like weed killers and stuff like that. And they come with like a shoulder strap. And they might be like, I don't know what they are. They're between like 5 and 10 liters or something like that.
So the one I've got here is 5.
Yeah. They're a pretty decent sized bottle. And they've got like a little hose with like a bar with a trigger on it and stuff. They're fantastic. I love those things.
I found though that this one's the one I've had the longest, but they never seem to last long. I don't know whether maybe I'm putting too much pressure in it, but basically the bottom would always leak out of the bottom. This one leaks now. So basically as soon as I'm done with it, I've got to take all the pressure out of it. Okay. Otherwise it just leaks water. I've had that issue with every single one.
I think
or that leaks basically the pump that you pump down.
Yeah.
Break
in that top seal or something.
Yeah.
Do you decompress your one after every use?
Every time, yeah.
Yeah. So I think mine's coming up to probably about 2 or 3 years now that I've had this one. So it's had a pretty good innings and it's perfectly fine currently. But I used to have issues with those smaller kind of like 2-liter ones that have like the little mini pump on top. Those ones used to go like every 6 months.
Like the handle was the trigger built onto the top. Yeah, I started with those ones and I was the same.
They are rubbish. I hate those ones.
So I think I've only gone through about 2, maybe 3 of these ones. But those ones that you said, I think I went through about 10 of them before I bit like it was almost the same price. I know I didn't just get one of these to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love my one of those though. Like I use it for everything. I use it for like doing enclosure builds when I'm like spraying like acrylic paints and stuff like that. I use it on all my animals. I love using it on my pythons too because like, you get a bit of a rainstorm come through or whatever and you want to simulate a bit of rain on any of your animals. It's good to just quickly pick that up, pump it up, just give everyone a light mist. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you can just walk around a whole reptile room and just jet everyone just quickly and lightly and just to bump up the relative humidity so then they feel a bit more like they're outside in the natural elements as well.
That's right. Yeah, I used to do the same thing. Every time a storm would come over, come down with a spray bottle and spray everything.
Bloody good way to get your frogs croaking.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. They should hopefully start soon. We had a storm last night, and I was on the back deck with my ear out, just seeing if I could hear them going. Didn't hear the local ones going, so
yeah. Did you go in and give them a little hit?
No, I didn't, because it come over at like 10:30 at night, I think.
Oh, okay.
And our dog spewed up all over the rug, so I had to go and clean up bloody dog spew. And I was like, I'm going to bed.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I made the mistake the other night when I was staying up at the other place, and I was trying to get a shot of the Boyd's enclosure with like the misking system, like spraying the Boyd's enclosure. So I'm sitting there holding the trigger on the misking thing, the little button that you press up or whatever for 5 seconds.
Yeah, thanks for showing me that. I didn't know it did that.
It's good to teach an old dog a new trick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm holding it and doing there, and I was kind of doing it for about a minute, and that was like maybe 10:30 at night. And my philocroa, that little green stream frog, did not shut up the whole damn night. I'm like, I was so lucky my wife didn't stay up with me that time, because he was going off the whole night. I'm like, I'm going to have to get rid of this guy. He's so loud. I was like, he's going to get the neighbors all pissed off. So,
I know a place he can come if you wanted to get rid of him, mate.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'd be more space for Gil and I, or maybe some more Felicipoda or something like that.
So you're technically not getting rid of it.
It is nice like that with friends. At least there's
like a boomerang. If you ever wanted to back it, seals.
Yeah. At least your wife loves frogs.
Yeah, loves them. So does my son.
That's so good.
But yeah, what about breeding? So when you set up your enclosures, did you set up any specific lay boxes, or did you just let them dig the soil?
I haven't yet. I have done that with geckos in the past, but I'm now kind of turning into a bit of an all cage nesting option freak. So I just end up putting deep substrate across the whole bottom of the cage, and then that way they can find an area that they might prefer. Because even though I've kind of created somewhere that they might prefer, or that I think they're going to use, it doesn't mean that they're going to be up to standard with it, So I found, now granted, I've only bred white Berber.
Yep.
And they were in a substrate that was probably, I'm going to say, between 8 to 10 centimeters deep along the bottom of the tank. Mm-hmm. And I found that they kind of laid in an area that was in between where the misking would really hit and the dry side of the enclosure. So it was kind of like that sort of semi-dry, semi-moist sort of area.
Yeah.
But no, I just used full cage nesting essentially. What about you?
So I set up in all of my enclosures. I think I spoke about this maybe once before on the podcast. So I would go to the plant, like Bunnings or something, and buy plastic pots, but I'd get 2 plastic pots. So I'd bury the pot in the soil. So basically my enclosure would I'd have the least amount of soil in the front, and then it'd slope up to like a high point of soil to the back corner.
Yep.
I'd have a pot buried in there, and then I'd have another pot sitting inside it with a saucer lid on with a hole cut in the top. And basically I'd have sphagnum moss kind of around that as well. Mm-hmm. But inside that I just have quiet peat and a little bit of sphagnum moss mixed in. So basically I'd sit that pot in the corner. I'd sit a slab of bark over it as well. Yep. So basically you couldn't really see the pot. And they'd obviously perch on the wall and on that and on the other ones. But basically they would crawl down in there, dig in there, lay in there. And then if I wanted to pull the pot out to look for eggs, I'm only pulling the pot out. I'm not pulling the whole pot out. So one pot would essentially stay in the soil. So it's not damaging tree roots or anything, plant roots, not tree roots, any roots in the soil basically. So it would all stay fixed. But I'd also put a little bit of fly screen in the bottom of the pot. So that way none of the quiet peat would come out the holes in the bottom of the pot.
Yeah, okay.
So with that though, my Swainy, Salabrosis, Cornutus were the only ones, and white Berber. So the majority of them would lay in it. My Maritzi would never, ever, ever lay in it. They would pick the shallowest part of the enclosure, basically where I had a piece of cork bark, basically pretty much almost tied up on an angle with the background. They would lay in between the two.
Okay.
So it was like almost in like a crevice in the soil.
Well, some geckos do that, don't they? They lay in like some species of geckos
Yeah.
do that, where they lay in crevices essentially, and if
Yeah.
that's the
And the
right
rocks and
temperature and moisture level, they just kind of pop them on top and let them go.
yeah. So they would lay basically between the two. It's still in the soil, so they still dig the soil out and lay the eggs. But they would lay there. They would never use
Okay.
the lay box. I still offered it. I kept it there. They would hide in it sometimes. My female white Berber would be her. She would hide in that lay box during the day.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't even be perched on bark or anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, she'd be in that lay box. That was a little hide spot. So I don't know whether that was something to do with, them like being in caves or whatever, or crevices and whatnot. But yeah, so these Maritzi laid in the same spot every time.
Yeah.
And it got to the point with the Maritzi, because they were harder. They got to a point where no one really wanted them at one point. So I basically stopped collecting eggs. So I just left them in the enclosure. And they ended up just hatching in the enclosure. So that was pretty cool. Same with the white Berber, did the same with them too. So it was cool. I came out one night and there's just little hatchling geckos around. I thought they were woodies at first. I'm like, I don't feed woodies. Why is there woodies in the enclosure? But yeah, it turned out to be little baby Maritzis.
I had that happen last year with the white Berber. I had a couple of hatchies pop out of the ground, which I was pretty stoked about. Usually I could find where, like, I was like, I'd be pretty confident that a female had nested, or every now and then I'd just go for a dig and I'll just spend like maybe 20 minutes or so just digging around, seeing if I found anything. But yeah, I did have it happen last year where I had two babies running around and causing a muck. But one of them that hatched out last year seemed to have like a bit of a neurological problem where he kept kind of twisting around. So I'm not sure if one of the adults might have just given him a quick bite or something like that, potentially thinking he was a bit of food or something like that. Or if he
Did you
was
have
just
any hot days or anything over the incubation period?
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of time of year, there's a good chance that there was a few hot days there that might have affected it, but you'd think it would have affected both eggs probably.
Yeah.
But who knows? It's easy to cook little lizards though, so I wouldn't be surprised if something had happened to him. But and it is a really cool feat to be able to hatch out some of these animals in their habitat, in their little tiny enclosure, and you go, well, I find that's kind of like an ultimate thing, because it's a win-win, right? Like
that's right.
You find a new lizard, it gives you a bit of a pat on the back and says you've done something right for them to think that this is a good enough enclosure to hatch out in, so
yeah, exactly. So you've given them like basically the right environment they need. So there's nothing better than walking in and just seeing those little hatchies running around, especially when you don't expect it. You're like, oh, what's that? And then it's like a hunt. You're like, oh, there's one, so there's got to be another one. So you're like, pulling everything out to try and. My biggest fear is because I use the cork bark slabs, and sometimes some little crevices that get in it, and I'd like check the piece of cork bark, and then I put the piece of cork bark on the floor, and then it'd just run away. So then I started getting, like, if I did that, I get a plastic container and just put the cork bark slab in the plastic container. So if it did happen to get out, it'd be in the container.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So
it's a very good idea. That's awesome. Well, apart from actually hatching them inside a box naturally, how did you go about incubating when you did find eggs?
So I would just I would just go to Coles and buy the round Chinese containers, like the takeaway containers.
Yep.
And I would just sphagnum moss, basically. I struggled to find the one that was already moist.
Yep.
So I'd buy the block of dry one, just fill it, wet it, squeeze all the water out, just make sure it was actually damp but not too wet. Sit the eggs in that. I'd just only do clutch pairs in each container and sit them in a cupboard in the bedroom in the dark at room temperature.
Pretty easy.
Just leave them. Every couple of weeks I'd check it, open it, just to let a bit of air exchange in there, so the air wasn't too bad, and that's pretty much all I did. So kind of a hands-off approach, and no heat, room temperature. It's another benefit too.
Yeah, you don't need to actually buy an incubator to hatch these guys out.
No, or even fancy incubation containers or anything like that.
Nothing like that.
What about you?
Well, the couple that I did hatch last year, I just did them in Rob's ironbark tubs. So they're like a little over water method tub, and I think I'm pretty sure I just did water crystals and water in the bottom of those.
Yeah.
So it just kind of has like a little egg tray that you can sit your little egg in the top of and leave it be. But yeah, I did the same sort of thing. I think with those though, what I did have is I had one little hole above the waterline level and one hole in the lid as well, just so there was like a little
Okay.
bit of a gas exchange there. So,
Yeah.
but I did do the same as you. You know, every week or so, I just go and crack it, kind of wave the
Yeah.
lid over the top of it, just freshen it up, put the lid back down, and go from there. But yeah, I mean, I haven't popped many of these things out. I've only popped a couple out, and
Yeah.
both from two different methods, really. So
So I basically just stuck with that method. Obviously, for the odd couple of times I did an enclosure, but every single time I got eggs, I would just same method, sphagnum moss container in the same cupboard. But I'd just organise it so the first lot would sit at the front.
yep,
Then I get another lot of eggs to sit behind it, and I'd
Yep.
write on the lid what it was, if it was Swaney, Wyberba,
what date?
what date it was as well.
Yep.
And basically, yeah, just then the next one I'd sit it behind. It didn't matter what species or I put in. I just put it in basically of hatch, like when it would hatch. So basically the first one would be the first one, and just the second one would be the next one to hatch, and so on and so on. And then I just stack them up, because basically in the cupboard that I had them in, it was in the bedroom, the spare bedroom, and I had like books and boxes and everything else in it. So I had like a little slotted area. I was off to the side, and there was the odd occasion when me and my wife would be at work, and I was worried about temperature. So what I'd do is I'd just sit in the cupboard. I'd just get a bowl and put one of those, those old little screwed cooler things you'd freeze and you put in your esky. They'd come with your esky.
Yeah.
I used to sit one of them in a bowl, so the moisture would just trap it in the bowl, and I'd just sit that in the cupboard as well, over a little bit off to the side, so it wasn't too close.
Yep.
So that would just kind of some way just keep the temperature down.
Yeah.
But,
anything's a good shot at it, right?
Yeah.
What was I going to say then? Sort of like time frame though of incubation. What were you kind of finding was like the length of incubation for your guys?
Around 90 odd days is what I'd usually get. 90, 91 to 90. Yeah, I had the couple go over 100, but the only time I do is that when we'd have the odd cold snap for like a week or something in between.
Yeah.
So if we had the cold snap it'd send it a couple of extra days over incubation. So, but generally it was around 91 to 93 days, I found. But everything I read, it said, this was before I bred them, I'd like read all the books and everything else, but it'd be all 100 days. And when mine started hatching out, I was like, oh, am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
But basically around the 90 odd days is when they'd hatch out.
Yeah. That's pretty similar to me too. I think like, even in like Danny Brown's books, I think a lot of them are saying like, 100, 110 days sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think mine came out about 90 odd, give or take.
Yeah. But pretty much bang on, 91, 90. Yeah. But then give or take, I might have missed a day collecting the egg, or a day or two. So yeah, you could basically say anywhere from 90 to 120 in between that, depending on your temperatures.
Yeah.
But I had a few, so I always had a temperature probe that did max and min temperature, maximum and minimum temperature. There was a few occasions where the eggs got up to about 30 or 31, but it would have only been for probably an hour or two, if that. And that would have been just the same time as where my shed used to get hot. But I'd come home and I'd check. So first thing I do is just go check it. And, if I hadn't put the ice thing in, I'll put the ice thing in there, or turn a fan on, just cool the house down or something. But I find that short temperature spike for a short amount of time, obviously if you're getting up over 30, 31, you're getting up around like 34 or something, I think that might be detrimental to the eggs. But a small hour window of 30, 28, 29, but pretty much the majority of the temperature was around max 28. I think it might have only been the odd day or two where it got over that. But nighttime lows would get down to like 16, 14, around there. So probably similar to your temperatures where you were.
Yeah. I mean, we're not that far from each other really, but yeah, it's that. I think, that just makes it even more obvious to try to choose a cupboard that might be in a room that does stay a little bit more neutral, sort of thing.
Yep.
So like even thinking about where I'd be incubating leafy eggs this season, I'd be thinking that, maybe I'll be doing that in the front of the house that's actually straight into where the unit is, where it's kind of center of the unit block sort of thing, versus in a room that backs onto an area that might get a bit of sunlight or something like that, just to try to keep it a little bit more stable.
So I have a kind of a theory that maybe the temperature fluctuation give stronger hatchies in a way.
Potentially, for sure.
So yeah, so I wasn't too worried about the fluctuation, and that might be the other reason why, in those books because I read a lot of people putting them in the cupboard in their bathroom on the floor, basically. So you got the tile floor, which is cold concrete.
Yep.
So that might increase the day incubation period just that little bit longer because the temperature's a little bit lower. So whereas me and you would have had that maybe slightly higher temperature of the afternoon, which might have, shortened the incubation period a little bit more.
Very true.
But, I mean, I had a system, if it's broke, don't fix it. So that's why I never changed to any type of medium or anything like that. Like I didn't do overwater. I just stuck with the sphagnum moss and in the same cupboard. I did use the cupboard in the middle of the house, but my house pretty much would be the same temperature everywhere. So
yeah, okay.
So it's still the same temperature range.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I'd change from what I did last time is I'd actually put the egg box in a actual cupboard that shuts off to light. Whereas where I had it is I had it on a bookshelf that was, it would get like a daytime light, ambient light in the room and stuff. So
yeah,
I'd probably just put it somewhere where it was a little bit darker.
Yeah. So I did the exact same thing. And it's funny because I incubated the chameleon gecko eggs the same way. So pretty much kept them the same too.
It's all in that same sort of world, right? Like that kind of cooler, temperate sort of species.
Yeah. And I mean, people probably do the same with the Boyd's eggs as well.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what Coop does. I think Coop does them in sphagnum moss and just keeps them in like a shelf in his room or something. I don't think he does anything special with them.
No. But I've also heard of people hatching other stuff the same way.
Yep.
Whether it be carpets or I think I actually hatched some levis the same way once. Because I looked at the eggs, I'm like, oh no, they don't look that good, and I just kind of put them on a shelf. I had a rack back when I had on my levis. I just put it on like the bottom shelf of the rack that didn't have a heat cord, and then like they ended up hatching. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, we all know Owen hatched some coastal carpets by doing that, didn't he?
Yeah, forgot to plug his incubator in. So.
Oh, that's a rookie error, but we all make mistakes. That's too funny. What about hatchling establishment?
So pretty much hatchlings I would set up in plastic tubs. So I'd get a taller plastic tub if you could find one, preferably, because I'd find that they would use the height more than any other gecko. But basically just the same way as I kept the adults, not bioactive, just on, if you don't have to go bioactive to keep them as well. So if you keep like cryopeat with a bit of sand mixed in it, that's the substrate I'd use for the babies. And I just have like a single cork bark slab. I would do clutch pairs to start and just basically monitor, the feeding and this and that. And if I found one was growing quicker than the other, I'd just separate them into separate tubs.
Yeah.
And feed them that way. And I just had them all sitting on the rack on the floor. And then once they kind of outgrew those, I just put them straight into 30, 45 exoterras.
Yep. Just something
I had
a little bit larger.
Bunch of those, so something a little bit larger, and I just keep the clutch pair in that as well again.
Yep.
And they would, pretty much, except for some of the larger species, but your Maritzi and your white Berber and that, I could pretty much keep them in that size singly though, so I'd separate them into an enclosure each until they pretty much not quite fully grown, but well over a yearling, and then till they were big enough to go into the larger one.
Yeah, I think that those sort of like when you just go on a backtrack, those tubs that you're talking about, are you kind of talking like 20 centimeters tall plastic
like
tubs?
They got a clip on. What are they? It's not Systema. No, I don't think it's Systema. They got like the clear lid on the top, and it's got like little clear circles on it almost.
So okay. I think I know the one you're talking about.
And they're like a rectangle shape. So I just use them.
Yep.
And basically, they were perfect. Put a couple of holes in it, and then I just spray them down every couple of days just to keep that cryopeat moist, and I'd let it almost dry out. So instead of keeping it moist and sopping wet, I'd spray it.
Yep.
And then let it to get to almost, so not so it's bone dry, so it's a little bit like if you like almost sticks together almost, and then I'd spray it again.
Yeah.
So what about you?
So this time around, I mean, obviously it's only the first time I've done it. I just went straight for a 30-30 Exoterra.
Yeah.
Or the cube, and then just kind of as they got a little bit bigger, graduated them into something like the 30-30-45. However, in the future, I think I'd definitely go to a tub first, just because I think that's a little bit easier for them to find things, and I'd keep it pretty simple. I'd pretty much mimic exactly what you said, just to keep it super simple, super easy to keep clean, super easy to maintain. Yep. I think the only thing is I might do some sort of like little, either in the lid or in the side. Might even do it in the side, but just sort of like a little window where I might use like a hole saw or something to cut out like a little vent, and then just do some like aluminium fly screen or something hot glued or siliconed onto the side of it, just so there's a little bit more airflow in there.
Yeah, rather than what I used to do. Yeah, I used to hot glue just fly screen.
Yep.
But I wouldn't have the bark high enough so they could climb up onto the fly screen.
Yeah. Yep.
But that way it stopped short so they couldn't touch it.
Yeah, so I think the lid
have
holes
holes around the bottom as well, so that way there was airflow in the bottom, out the top, or in the top, out the bottom.
Yeah, and the ones in the bottom you just made with a soldering iron or something like that. Yeah, that'd be the way that I'd think about it. Yeah. But no, that's the way that I'd probably do it in the future.
Did you find they weren't hunting food like well enough in the Exoterra?
I think the Exoterra was just a little bit too complicated that I had them in.
Yeah.
So I think that's a thing with a lot of baby animals in general, in particular baby reptiles. It's no different to the Gillini. Like the Gillini, I like to have in something super simple, basic, so they can just find food, they can smash it easy, they grow quicker.
And you can, the benefit of that as well is you can monitor the food they eat too. So if you've got, that's why I kept them in pairs, but if I found one wasn't growing quick, I'd separate it. And then if you chuck 2 crickets in, you could see that it ate 2 crickets.
Yep.
I would never chuck. So I would rather feed them every night or every second night than chuck in too many crickets, because I found that stressed them almost a little bit as well. So, I might chuck in 1 or 2. If there was 2 in there, I'd chuck in, say 3 or 4 crickets.
Yep.
And then basically a cricket each almost. And once they had them, I come again, do it the next night, do it the next night, do it the next night. Or, if they didn't touch it, I wouldn't feed them the next night. I'd just skip a night almost. So
I 100% agree with like the crickets being able to stress out animals like that.
Yeah.
Something that you have to take into consideration with the leaf tails in particular is a lot of other animals, like let's say Strophaurus or Oedura and stuff, because they have that sticky toe pad, they have an escape from crickets.
That's right.
They can actually go onto a glass panel or whatever and get away from it. Whereas leafies don't have that. So the crickets, wherever the leaf tail can go, the cricket can go too.
That's right.
So, and I do find that they're a little bit more sensitive in nature if they get, like, as far as cricket stress goes. Whereas if you chuck in a whole bunch of crickets with an Oedura, it's just going to gorge until it's can't eat anymore, or it spews or something like that, So the leafies, they get a bit weirded out when you do too many crickets.
Especially because you'll find that the crickets will tend to walk over them as well.
100%. Yeah.
And if they go anywhere near the tail, they freak out a little bit too.
Yeah.
But it's just mainly for stress and just so I could manage and see what they were eating, to make sure that they were eating. Because I think maybe the first time I had a larger enclosure, so it was probably only 10 centimeters high, but it was probably 20 centimeters long by about 10 centimeters wide. And I found that they're not the fastest hunters. So basically they wait till pretty much they come right to them and they'll eat it. So I found having that larger enclosure with the babies in, like obviously they'd still roam and try and hunt, but they weren't eating as many crickets as I thought they probably should. So then as soon as I shrunk the enclosure down, I made it a little bit taller and the base was smaller. So basically the crickets can only kind of walk around. Basically, I think it's probably 10 by 10, if that.
Yep. And
then it's just nice and tall. But for 1 or 2, like I'll post some pictures up after this when the episode drops on the Instagram, and I'll send some to you so we can check on the Facebook as well, so you can see how small baby leaf tails actually are. So like if you think of the size of your thumb, they're probably the size of your thumb, the Cornutus were, and the Swaini Mauritiu and they were even smaller again. So that size enclosure was pretty much perfect. I even thought about getting some of those, the acrylic ones you can buy online that like spider. I thought about getting some of them and just,
Yeah.
but they would have been a little bit too expensive. But yeah, it was just easy to watch how much they ate and make sure they were eating.
Well, it's important, right? Like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you got to make sure what food's going in is actually being consumed, and you got to
Yeah.
kind of learn how many crickets is too little, how many crickets is too much, and
That's right.
and
Because
roll
you'll have
from
some
there.
that'll eat more than others, that'll grow quicker than others as well. So, but I'd always make sure that, if I chuck some crickets in, like I'd have like a system of the way I fed. So I'd feed the babies first, and then I'd kind of work my way around and start feeding some adults. And then I could kind of keep an eye to make sure that both the geckos in the enclosure were eating the food.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How'd you go about selling leaf tails? Did you find they were pretty easy to move on, or do you have any difficulties?
So the only ones I really had difficulties with was white Berber,
Yep.
purely
R2.
because they are too.
Yeah.
Maritzi I did a little bit towards the end, after a couple of years of breeding them, because obviously there was quite a few of them getting around, so a lot of people had pairs and were breeding them as well. So basically, yeah, I had not so much troubles, but that's kind of when I just let them lay the eggs, and if they hatched in the enclosure, they hatched. If they didn't hatch, I wasn't too concerned.
Yep.
But of the other ones, I never had an issue. I had basically lists of people of who wanted them, who'd asked me. So I'd basically, if I had any hatchies, I'd either go through the list, or any mates that I knew that wanted some, I'd offer them first. And then, if they didn't want any, I'd just go down the list. And if someone said, no, I can't right now, I'd go to the next one.
Yep.
Go to the next one, pretty much. So yeah, never. And then it wasn't probably, I think I only advertised a couple of times, was right towards the end. I was like, I couldn't be bothered to go through like lists and this and that. I just chucked them up. But yeah, never had an issue selling like the Cornutus. Probably the only issue you may have had was the price tag on some of those ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them aren't cheap geckos.
Yeah. So yeah, they were, pairs were like $1,200 for an adult pair. Hatchies, I'd sell hatchies cheaper than what you see a lot of them getting around for now. But
Yep.
in individuals, I'd sell for a little bit dearer. But I just kind of do a deal. If you bought a pair, give them a little bit cheaper, because obviously it saves me having to freight, one animal here, one animal there, one animal there.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted 2, 3, I'd, if you bought a third one, I'd make it even cheaper, a little bit cheaper again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
that's always nice to do that as well. I always did that
Yeah.
with the monitors and stuff as well, where,
Yeah.
one's expensive, two's a little cheaper, three's even cheaper again.
Yeah.
You just move them
Especially
on quicker.
you can't really sex them. So, if you get 3, you've got a little bit better chance of maybe getting a pair, or, or something else. So
it's the exact same with the monitors and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I've heard of people, like shining the light through basically and doing it that way, but I tried it. I couldn't see anything. So I wasn't too sure.
I've never tried it with a gecko, to be honest. I have tried it with
Yeah.
the monitors, and some other lizards and stuff like that, and it's been okay. I find that, for example, just with monitors, I'd kind of give them a couple of months, and then you'd be able to see some pretty distinguishable sexual features and stuff like that. You could actually tell the males are starting to bulk out, unless you get an unlucky one that kind of gives you the female look and jumps through. So one of my mates, what's his name, Matt, I sold him a pair of Gil and I years ago.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one ended up being a very tiny male, but must have been the runt of the litter. So he's still bugging me every 2 weeks for a female.
So I had a bit of a theory with my leaf tails and color patterning and that kind of thing.
Let's talk about this. I've been really interested about this because we've spoken a bit quite recently about this.
Yeah, but it's since been put to bed because there's a couple of animals that float. So I'd always noticed that my females would be darker in color and a lot less pattern in color. And it worked. I'm probably just talking out of my butt though. But so if I had hatchies, I could almost everyone that I wouldn't sell them based on this, because it's basically just
Hypothesis.
yeah, exactly. So basically, anyone that I thought was a female and anyone I thought was a male, I'd have my theory. I'd hold them back, and they turned out to be every time I did it. So that's why my theory kind of kept going the way I had. But since I've spoken to a few people about it, and they had a similar thought, but then there's those odd animals out there that kind of throw that thought out the window. So
yeah,
we
talked about this a little bit recently because we were talking about my cornutus and potentially being a similar sort of situation where I have one female that's very almost patternless sort of thing. That's the female that I got off you, and then I got another gecko off Josh Thompson, and that one's like very stereotypical cornutus that you see on a lot of those Google images and stuff.
Light and
and like heavily mottled and like and all the rest of it. And that also seems to be female. So
see, that one throws my theory out the window. So
I have to double check it again, but the last time I checked, it didn't have any.
Next time you check,
yeah, it didn't have any hemipenal bulges last time I saw
but
it.
I think I sent you some pictures of my female, and she's similar. To yours.
Yeah, very similar.
I don't think I sent you any of my male, maybe not, but yeah. But they're like, again, it's just a theory, but
wouldn't it be crazy to be able to sexually, like, have sexual dimorphism in a gecko? Yeah, in a gecko like that. Like, I mean, obviously, seeing a hemipenal bulge is one thing, but to actually have like a color pattern difference between sexes is pretty cool.
Like once they're fully grown, they're easy to sex. Like you can tell straight away. You just look under the tail and you can see the boys and see the males. You can almost pick them from the top too, as well. But because they got those femoral paws, I think they're called. No, is it the right word? I can't remember. They've got like little. So on the side of their balls, they've got like a little. Each side, they've got like a little. It's almost like a little nodule,
like a spur cluster.
Yeah, it's like a spur cluster. Yeah, that's probably what it is actually. Yeah. Like a spur cluster on each side.
Yeah.
So,
believe that's what it's referred to in monitor talk, at least.
Yeah.
Whether that's the technical term or not, I don't know. But
yeah, it's probably But yeah, but
I wonder if that, like, did you ever get copulation or witness copulation with your geckos?
A couple of times, yeah. I never did with the chameleon geckos, but a couple of times with the leaf tails.
Yeah, I wonder if that spur cluster or whatever it's called is actually used as like a stimulation tool by the males.
I saw a lot of tail waving.
Yeah.
So like they just lift the tail up and then like wave it side to side.
So very similar to Nephorus.
Yeah, pretty much the exact same.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of that. But that was pretty much it, really.
Well, when like you may or may not, I don't know your experience here, but like when monitors kind of like start courting each other, they almost try to throw a leg over and they almost seem to like wave their tail and like almost agitate the spur cluster almost against the female, and they'll like be scratching one of their hind legs as well, almost to say, hey, today's the day sort of thing. So whether they use it or not, being like with the geckos as well, I'm not 100% sure. Somebody will probably correct us on it, no doubt.
I'm sure there's people out there that know.
And we'd love to learn. So
100%.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to hear any sort of feedback on this sorts of stuff. So
yeah, no, I love learning new things. That's why. I mean, I've probably read it and I probably have. And it's just, I'm at the point where like something goes in, something has to come out.
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So, but like I've only just started actually reading some books again. So I need to sit down and have a few read a few of them. But
I think I'm going to go read a book right now, mate.
Yeah.
It's about that time of day, I reckon. And this has been. Have you got anything else you want to talk about quickly, or pretty?
Not really. Other than
covered.
Other than don't be afraid to keep leaf tails. They're not as hard as people think.
No, they're honestly
find
not.
them, and there's something you want, jump on them, because there's something that doesn't come up all that often.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not like the master of leaf tails or anything like that. I don't know everything, but if you're not sure, shoot me a message. I can kind of help you with something. But
they're very cool animals to keep. I think they're They are like keeping an empty box during the day, but as soon as the
Yes.
night comes out, it's just like
Yep.
it's on for Donkey Kong.
Yep.
You know, like they're
That's
all
right.
over the shop, ready to hunt, ready to do whatever, and they're very impressive animals. When you can walk into a room of a nighttime and go herping in your room.
They do have a
Pretty
good.
cool.
The adults have a good food response of a night time. The hatchies not so much.
Oh,
But
they
the
smash
adults,
food straight in front of you. Yeah, the big
Yeah.
guys. Yeah.
you can actually. I could hand feed a lot of my adults, like off. Just basically pick up a cricket and they'd eat out of my fingers.
Yeah, I do that with the cornutus occasionally, or at
Yeah.
least with tongs or something like that, because their
They
feed
got a good,
response is
decent
awesome.
bite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Wyberber are good for that too, actually. I can just chuck in a full handful of crickets and they'll just go mental. The adults,
Yeah.
they'll just be running all over the place. And, you know, for girls that are supposedly probably up around the 8+ year mark or so,
Yeah.
they're still pretty good. So,
But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, that's where Danny Brown's book come in handy too.
that is a good book for leafies.
I believe he's the master of the leaf tails. He kept. I think he kept the majority of the Sartorius. I think he actually kept all of them, maybe, except for the Exemius, obviously. But
He was keeping things
others.
like Struffs and that outdoors as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's keeping leaf tails outdoors and everything. So
Yeah. I remember seeing a quick video. I can't remember where he was or what video it was, but they're doing like a little tour of his place or whatever. And he had kind of like this weird aviary where you walk down a corridor and there's like enclosures off either side that you could access and different geckos and stuff in there. That's unreal.
I remember handing him for years for leaf tails. So,
Did you ever get any of him?
I think I got a Wyberber off him from memory. And that was it, I think. Because I just missed out. I think I'd messaged him 2 weeks after, and then he was like, I just moved everything on. That was when he was getting out. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
So
It's a shame.
Yep.
Oh, well. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap this up here now. So we'd like to say a massive thanks to Eric and Owen and the rest of the NPR crew for having us. If you'd like to contact them, it's best to find them at moreliapythonradio.com and email them at info@moreliapythonradio.com. As far as contacting us on our social media platforms, you can email us at australianherpetoculture@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. To see more of what Jason is doing, make sure to follow him on Facebook and Instagram at The Gecko Effect. For myself, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, and Teespring under Beach and Scaly Beasts. We'd hope to have you back for another episode here next week of the Australian Herpetoculture Podcast. Good night, guys.